We are on the second day of learning conversations with Gunther Schmidt, and we brought some questions. My first question today: what has impressed you the last 2 days?
Oh, very much this open conversation atmosphere where people exchange their different points of views and bring that together into a creative learning environment, in learning interactions, which is in a way so lively, so also that the people experience it with the whole body in a sense. That's very impressive to me.
And for me, the relation between why you're here and what could be the output is, what is your input to the learning conversations?
Well, I'm coming from the hypnosystemic concept, which always goes from the premise that we, in a sense, we create our experience second by second, in a sense, by the way how we focus all with our sensory channels, the attention from the inside, but also in interactions with other people, how we focus attention. That is the way how we create experience. And what I wanted to bring in is how that works already for an individual, but even more how organizational rules and organizational interactions are in a sense a kind of an environment, a climate which always invites people, like if somebody would be in a trance induction, to focus attention in a certain way, so that on a voluntary but much more on an involuntary level that triggers networks of experience, either empowerment experiences, networks of competence or so, or networks of anger, fear and resistance or so on. Therefore the rules in the organization and the way how you cope with hierarchy, how you communicate, for example, objectives, how you communicate, for example, feedbacks which are, who somebody says, oh, you have to do something else and things like that, have to be so built up in a way that the people are encouraged and respected and dignified in their own contributions, so that it's motivating to cooperate and bring all the competences together.
So if I understood you right, your topic is the frame or the framework the organization can set to empower people and to give them the opportunity to create the right culture.
Yeah, because in an organization, every organization in a sense is always a system for goals, for certain goals, but the goals are in a sense maybe different between the participants of the system. There's an official goal of the whole system, let's say production of whatever, but also then you have personal goals, team goals and so on, different things, and how that all has to be negotiated in a way that is a good balance can come out of that, always so that it has good effects for the official main goals of the organization, because the organization can only survive and is also interested always in that the goals of the organization are supported in the best way. For that you need the competences, the motivation and the cooperation abilities of the people. And the rules of the organization have always to be so that the people are encouraged to do that. This will only be the case when the people are respected in their autonomy also, autonomy within the system, in their contributions, that they are respected and appreciated. And also if they need, for example, if somebody makes a mistake, that this mistake is never criticized in the usual traditional way, but it's used as information about we have to learn something, and nobody is in a sense to be condemned or criticized because he did it with a good purpose and then finds out something another effect has come out. And so it's a kind of a learning experience. Just especially when you want to have a so-called learning organization, it's very important that you have an encouragement culture where the people, when they bring in, oh, I did something and it didn't work out the way we wanted it, are rewarded for that, in a sense. Rewarded, not that they did that only, but they report it, so that we can learn with each other together, and that everybody who has problems, in a sense, this is always only translated in a competent feedback about needs which we have now to cooperate in a better way for the goals.
I just want to step in with a question to like stages or levels, because we have three major parts I hear from this. One is needs, one is roles, and the other one is goals. And I try to separate it a little bit. So my first question is, how can we come from goals to the roles? I refer to the role model. In which role you are here, like a personal, on your official, or no? In which role you are here? Your personal role, your organizational role, or your professional role?
Within the organization, you are together in an organizational role. The personal roles and the personal things are, in a sense, they are important, but they are not the first thing to do. The organizational role is the main issue for the organization. And in your organizational role, you have responsibility to serve for the goals of the organization. Therefore, whatever you say out of a role.
But in which role you are here on this learning conversation conference?
This is a misunderstanding.
What's your goal? What's your goal, and what's your role here on learning conversations?
There are several roles in one together. One is that Gunther Schmidt and I are close friends, and he invited me to report about the Cystelius organization, this clinic organization, where I'm the CEO and the founder, and the medical director, so to speak. There report in this role of this medical director about this organization and about how this organization is organized to just bring those effects which I talked about earlier. Then I'm also in a personal role here because I'm interested in supporting this conversational learning thing and also learning from that. And yeah.
Your topic was how our organization can create a climate, or the fitting climate. What are
I would say a climate of goal serving with dignity, respect, supporting of creativity, and of competence activation.
So what do you expect from a community? There's just a community establishing at the moment about learning conversations. What are the key factors we've got to manage till next year that you contribute to this community and you engage with your personal role and your professional role?
Maybe that everybody in a sense behaves related to the premise that nobody sees how it is really right or so that it's an encounter of curious persons who exchange their different perspectives about the questions of how an organization can be built up in a certain way, how we can also treat or cope with people, cooperate with people who have needs in counseling, in coaching, in therapy, whatsoever, and to bring those different perspectives together as a kind of a description of different perspectives where nobody has the truth in a sense, but all together brings us a little bit more to a climate of viability, how things can be made and how everybody can learn from everybody to improve his own approach in keeping his own approach.
So to bring it to the point, do you want to have some rules for the community, some mindset like how we behave and how we get together?
Well, I would be more interested in behaving in a certain way, then building up a meta level of observing the own behavior, and from this meta level find out whether this behavior would would fit with rules everybody wanted to have, but the rules are made in action, and you can define rules but then behave in a very different other way. So you can declamate, of course, rules, but that wouldn't be the important thing. The important thing is how people behave towards each other and experience this kind of action, and then reflect it on a meta level, whether that should be going on or should be changed a little bit, and always step by step with meta feedback, meta observation of the own doing, in a sense. So cybernetics, second order cybernetics, to be the observer of the own observation in acting, things like that. And if that would come out, that people always act and then go on a meta level, exchange their perspective about the own actions, and then again go on a meta level to observe how they made the meta level. So, and that always in a circular way, that would be a nice experience if that would be much more developed still. But it's very, very good here, I think.
So you go in a direction of not just Maturana, also Peter Zenji with the learning organization, and all the time the loops and the double loops and the loop of the loops, and like reflecting each other.
I'm more in Heinz von Förster's heritage oriented in a sense than in Peter Zenji's, but it's coming from the same roots.
You know, I'm a little bit in media. I like media very much. So my question to you is, can you imagine that media can be part of the meta level? Like you get the comments from outside via some devices.
Oh, very much. I even use that sometimes in group therapies, for example, that we agree before that we do a group therapy session and record it with a video equipment, and then later on we observe it together, how the people in the group interacted with each other, and then we record that as well. So, so they can discuss about how they interacted when they have been in the first meeting, and then they, even if they want, not everybody wants that, the second thing, can discuss how they discussed and worked together in this observing what they did before. This is a very intensive training, and it's very helpful to have it with this media equipment, to step out of their own behavior into an observer level, and from that kind of protected distance, in a sense, learn about the own behavior. Not that you have to be criticized, but you have to be more, to have more choices. So, and therefore medias are very helpful, I guess.
And have you tried to use like we call it new media, like these blog things, or do you use Skype?
Well, I use Skype a lot in my private life, and I try now to establish it together with my team when I'm not there, because I'm traveling very much also, that we can have discussions. Not everybody in the team likes that up to now, so I'm still in the kind of a, how would you say, verben to win people for that. I'm not sure whether that works out, but I use it a lot. And blogs is something we invite people who have been clients in our clinic, for example. There's a network where they can then report about their experiences at home again and what they learned about that. We also do a lot of so-called transfer groups where the people are invited when they're at home already to come back and report to the people who are still here as clients what they made an experience and what they learned out of it, so that the people here already can, in a sense, be a little bit trained for their experience at home and so. And then we also try more and more to use that in a blog way as well.
If it hadn't been a good or if there's not a good outcome out of this, you wouldn't do this. So what's the positive outcome of this blogging and just getting together with the people who already got back to like normal life?
Yeah, when you do things like we do in a clinic, for example, this is just a means, a tool that somebody, in a sense, can behave or act in his life more like he wanted. So as a kind of a goal-serving tool. The whole clinic cooperation is only a goal-serving tool. But that has to be transferred in the everyday life, which is not so easy. So for that, it's very helpful to have a lot of feedback, because even if you have a wonderful experience in the clinic, that does not mean that you make the transfer successfully, because it's a different context at home. So to have a lot of exchange, which always in a sense also reactivates the networks which the people have developed in the clinic, the helpful networks, are very helpful and important. And for that, these medias are very helpful.
So could media be a bridge from like learning conversations here to the everyday life of the participants in the future?
I'm certainly, I'm very sure about that, and we want to try to build that up much more than we have it now, because it's a big chance for everybody. Otherwise, the people have to drive 500 kilometers or 700. They even if they want, they cannot do it every day. But with that, they can, in a sense, every day connect to everybody. And already just knowing that is encouraging and making much more safe feelings of safety and things like that. This networking, it's much more a support network. Even if you don't use it every day, it's in your mind that if you want it, you could use it, and that already is an intervention.
And can you also imagine risks participants have to face with this media consumption or media usage?
Yeah, well, of course, you could also in these media things, in a sense, make discounting comments or things like that, or and therefore, in a sense, you always have to have a kind of a supervising act as well, because you don't know who. Usually, only those people who have been part of this cooperation in the clinic then have an entrance to this kind of network.
Supervising means moderator.
Moderator or something like that, yes. But even if somebody does not want, he can send a kind of a message which somebody else feels as hurting him or so. And therefore it's quite helpful then at least to have a moderator who can regulate that or say, listen, this is not part of this kind of blog or things like that. I really think it's very important to have a moderator for that. But then it's quite helpful to me.
The last question for today. If you can give us 2 advices for the next 12 months, what to do? What would be your 2 advices?
Well, the first would be that within and after this meeting here, everybody is invited to reflect on what was the most helpful experiences and patterns he had experienced here and report that to everybody, so that it's a kind of a pool of helpful patterns of success within this interaction, and this is the guideline for the next time. And then also, in a sense, from that on, to report and to stay in contact all the time, or at least sometimes. Because when you don't, in a sense, foster this contact, my experience is it pales out a little bit again. So, and then to report also what kind of in the everyday life, in the action of the everyday life, of these effects they have learned here had made an effect there. So, because this is very encouraging for the whole thing in the network.
Okay, super. Vielen Dank.
Okay.
Na, da haben wir doch noch mal ein paar